For over a decade, Lorne Greene's deep, commanding voice and calm authority made him one of television's most respected figures. He wasn't just playing a character. As Ben Cartwright in Bonanza, Greene embodied the very idea of fatherhood and moral strength during a time when America was looking for heroes. The show, which ran from 1959 to 1973, became one of the longest-running and most successful westerns ever made. Greene's portrayal of the wise patriarch raising his three sons on the Ponderosa Ranch struck a deep chord with audiences worldwide. Viewers tuned in week after week, not only for the gunfights or drama, but to see the life lessons that Ben Cartwright taught his sons, Adam, Hoss, and Little Joe. But behind the calm exterior, Lorne Greene was dealing with his own struggles, long hours, creative disagreements, and the emotional toll of carrying such a heavy role. By the early 1970s, the man who had given so much to Bonanza was beginning to feel trapped by the very show that had made him famous. When Bonanza first premiered, it was a gamble. NBC took a chance on a color western, which at that time was rare and expensive to produce. Yet within a few seasons, it became a cultural phenomenon. The series wasn't just about shootouts and cattle ranching, it was about family values, ethics, and the human heart. For Lorne Greene, this sudden success brought him fame, admiration, and wealth. But it also came with expectations. Fans saw him as Ben Cartwright in real life, a wise father figure who always knew right from wrong. That blurred line between actor and character became exhausting for Greene. He once admitted in an interview that people often approached him for advice as though he were truly Ben Cartwright. As flattering as it was, it also meant that he never truly got to be himself. The show demanded grueling shooting schedules, often lasting 12 to 14 hours a day, leaving little room for rest or personal life. Lorne Greene began to feel the weight of his own success, wondering if he had given too much of himself to the show that defined him. As Bonanza moved into its later seasons, cracks began to appear. The once fresh storylines started to feel repetitive, and many of the cast members grew weary of the same formulas being repeated. Lorne Greene, being a thoughtful and serious actor, began to crave something new, something more meaningful and challenging. But the producers were determined to keep the formula intact, afraid to change what had been a proven success for years. Creative tensions began to rise on set. Greene wanted to explore deeper storylines, touching on social issues or more complex family dynamics, while the network pushed for lighter entertainment to maintain ratings. Off-screen, Greene was also dealing with personal fatigue. The show's long run had taken him away from his family for much of his life, and the emotional strain was starting to show. He had grown close to his fellow cast members, especially Dan Blocker, Hoss, and when tragedy struck the cast, it would push Greene closer to his breaking point. In 1972, tragedy hit the Bonanza family hard. Dan Blocker, who played Hoss Cartwright and was one of the most beloved members of the cast, suddenly passed away due to a pulmonary embolism following surgery. His death shocked fans around the world, but no one felt it more deeply than Lorne Greene. The two men shared a deep bond both on and off screen. Greene saw Blocker almost like a son, and losing him felt like losing a real member of his family. Filming after Dan's death was incredibly difficult. The producers decided to continue the show, but the atmosphere on set was never the same. The heart of the Ponderosa was missing, and the chemistry that made the show so special had faded. Lorne Greene reportedly broke down during the first read-through of a script that didn't include Hoss. He realized that Bonanza had lost more than just a character. It had lost its soul. For the first time, Greene began to seriously consider walking away from the show that had defined his life for over a decade. After Dan Blocker's death, NBC tried to carry on with Bonanza, but ratings began to drop. The network introduced new characters and attempted to modernize the show, but the magic was gone. Lorne Greene, who had once been the show's strongest advocate, now found it painful to continue. He often arrived on set looking weary and detached. Crew members later recalled that his energy had changed. He was quieter, more reflective, and often lost in thought between takes. The emotional burden of continuing without Hoss was heavy, but there was also another problem brewing. NBC executives were pressuring the cast to work harder to revive the slipping ratings, leading to tension behind the scenes. Greene, who was always professional, began clashing with the production team over creative direction. He believed the show was becoming a shadow of its former self, focusing more on ratings than storytelling. The breaking point came when NBC decided to cancel Bonanza abruptly after its 14th season, without giving the cast proper closure. For Greene, it was the final insult after years of dedication. When he learned of the decision, he reportedly packed up his things and left the set without saying much to anyone. He had given his all, and now it was time to move on. Leaving Bonanza was not an easy decision, but Lorne Greene knew it was necessary for his peace of mind. After the show ended, he took time to reflect on what he wanted next. Many actors struggle after being associated with one iconic role, but Greene managed to reinvent himself. He appeared in various television films and even hosted documentaries. In 1974, he starred in Griff, playing a crime-fighting private investigator, a role completely different from Ben Cartwright. Greene also became known for his distinctive voice, lending his narration to many nature and science programs. But no matter how far he went in his career, the shadow of Bonanza always followed him. He remained proud of the show and often spoke fondly of his time there, but it was clear that the emotional scars from those final years never fully healed. Still, he used his fame to inspire others, showing that it was possible to move forward with grace after losing something you love deeply. Looking back, Lorne Greene's journey is one of dedication, strength, and heart. Few actors have ever left such a powerful mark on television history. Bonanza wasn't just a show. It was an American institution, and Greene was its moral compass. His portrayal of Ben Cartwright continues to be celebrated even decades after his passing. When asked years later about his decision to walk away, Greene explained that sometimes you have to let go of something great to protect your own spirit. He didn't regret leaving, because he believed Bonanza had already told all the stories it needed to tell. Greene's final years were filled with quieter, more personal projects, and he focused on spending time with his family, something he had missed during his Bonanza years. He passed away in 1987, leaving behind a legacy of kindness, professionalism, and strength. To this day, fans still watch Bonanza reruns and feel the warmth of the man who brought Ben Cartwright to life. His decision to quit wasn't about anger or pride, it was about peace, integrity, and honoring the people who made the show special, especially Dan Blocker. Lorne Greene's instant decision to quit Bonanza was not made lightly. It came from a place of love, loss, and understanding. The show had been his home for nearly 15 years, but when the heart of that home was gone, he knew it was time to say goodbye. His departure marked the end of an era, not just for Bonanza, but for the golden age of television westerns. Yet his influence continues to echo across generations. Greene proved that being a star wasn't about fame or fortune. It was about integrity, compassion, and knowing when to walk away. Bonanza may have ended, but its spirit and Lorne Greene's wisdom lives on. His voice, once called the voice. Before he became Ben Cartwright, Lorne Greene's path to success was anything but easy. Born in 1915 in Ottawa, Canada, he didn't start out planning to be an actor. In fact, he studied chemical engineering at Queen's University, where he also discovered a love for performing in campus plays. But his deep, rich voice soon drew attention, and he began a career as a radio broadcaster. During World War II, Greene became known as the Voice of Doom on CBC Radio because of his solemn tone while reading wartime casualty reports. Though he later joked about the nickname, those years shaped his ability to project strength and authority, qualities that later defined Ben Cartwright. After the war, Greene pursued acting seriously, moving to the United States to chase new opportunities. However, the road was difficult. He was already in his 40s, a late start for most actors, and faced rejection after rejection. But Lorne Greene was determined. His perseverance finally paid off when he was cast in Bonanza, a role that would transform him from a struggling actor into a television legend. 1. Of the reasons Bonanza connected so deeply with audiences was the strong chemistry between its cast members. Lorne Greene, Pernell Roberts, Adam, Dan Blocker, Hoss, and Michael Landon, Little Joe, didn't just act like family, they truly became one. Greene naturally assumed a fatherly role off-screen as well, guiding his younger co-stars both personally and professionally. Michael Landon once said that Greene treated everyone on set with kindness and fairness, never acting like the star, even though he was the lead. He was the first to arrive and the last to leave, always offering advice or encouragement to those struggling with long filming hours. The set of Bonanza often felt like a real home, filled with laughter, inside jokes, and even the occasional argument that quickly turned into laughter again. Lorne saw his castmates as extensions of his own family, and that made the later tragedies and conflicts even more painful for him to bear. When the chemistry began to fade after Dan Blocker's passing, Greene felt like the family he had built was slowly disappearing. Before Dan Blocker's tragic death, another major change had already shaken Bonanza. Pernell Roberts, who played Adam Cartwright, left the show in 1965 after growing frustrated with its direction. Roberts was a trained stage actor who often criticized the show's scripts for being too predictable. He wanted more serious, thought-provoking material and clashed frequently with producers. His departure hurt Greene deeply. He had seen Roberts as a son figure, much like his character did on screen. Losing him disrupted the show's balance and emotionally affected Greene. Fans loved the brotherly relationship between Adam, Hoss, and Little Joe, and Roberts' exit forced the writers to shift the focus of the show. Although Bonanza continued to do well in the ratings, Greene later admitted that something had changed after Roberts left. The sense of unity was weakened. Still, Lorne pushed forward, believing that the show's values and message were worth preserving. But as time passed, each loss, first Roberts, then Blocker, took another piece of his spirit with it. Lorne Greene's presence on set wasn't just about acting. It was about guidance. Many of the younger crew members looked up to him as a mentor. Michael Landon, in particular, shared a special bond with Greene. Though they sometimes disagreed over creative ideas, Landon admired Greene's discipline and calm demeanor. Lorne often reminded him that true success wasn't just about fame, but about respect and humility. These lessons stayed with Landon throughout his life and influenced how he later ran his own shows, like Little House on the Prairie. Greene's approach to leadership was subtle but firm. He didn't raise his voice or make demands. Instead, he led by example. Even when he was tired or frustrated, he kept a professional attitude, setting the tone for everyone else. That's why when Lorne finally decided to quit, it wasn't out of anger, it was out of heartbreak. His quiet exit spoke volumes about the man he was, strong, dignified, and deeply loyal to his principles. By the early 1970s, television was changing rapidly. The era of classic westerns, once the most popular genre in America, was coming to an end. New audiences wanted fresh, modern stories, and networks were shifting toward urban dramas and sitcoms. Shows like All in the Family and MASH were taking over, while westerns were viewed as outdated. For Lorne Greene, this shift was bittersweet. He loved the western genre for its themes of honor, family, and justice, but he also understood that times were changing. NBC executives began cutting budgets and pushing for faster production, which made filming even more exhausting. Greene could see the writing on the wall. Bonanza's days were numbered. When ratings dropped after Blocker's death, NBC quickly lost faith in the show. Instead of giving the cast a proper farewell, they decided to end it abruptly. This decision left Greene disillusioned. After years of loyalty and hard work, he felt that both he and the show deserved a more respectful ending. The final episode of Bonanza aired in January 1973, without fanfare or even a proper send-off. There was no farewell special, no emotional conclusion, just a quiet ending to one of the most iconic shows in TV history. Lorne Greene was deeply hurt by how it ended. For more than a decade, he had given everything to the show, his time, his energy, his heart, and to see it fade away so quietly was heartbreaking. When he learned of the cancellation, he didn't make a scene or give angry interviews. Instead, he simply packed up his things, said a quiet goodbye to the crew, and left the Ponderosa set one last time. A few crew members later recalled that he stood for a moment, looking at the familiar scenery where he had spent so many years before walking away. That moment, though unspoken, symbolized the end of an era. Greene later said in an interview that leaving Bonanza